excitingly, later in the workshop series, we're going to be making our own NFTs. So if you do have your laptops, please pull them out and join along. Like every other week, we will be sharing all the resources and slides and the recording as well. Please make sure that you let us know your email afterwards so we can send it to you. And also, if you want to find out a little bit more about HHQ, we're a startup hub that helps companies expand into global markets. So if you want to learn more about our co-working space and our programs, please chat to me afterwards. Otherwise, without further ado, I'm going to let Victor take it away. Oh.
Hello. Yeah, yes, it works. I think it works.
Yeah, cool.
So, can you hear me all right? Far away? All good? Okay. Good. So, I will do a quick introduction for myself. Sorry, I got a sore throat. We are speaking too much these days. So I'm the CEO for Alpha Wallet. The company name is Alpha Wallet is one of our products. The company name is actually Songbird. And Alpha Wallet is the first product, and then TokenScript. And recently, we just about to launch a new NFT-related project called Alchemy NFT. And we just finalized 50 million valuation fundraising for that project. And investors including like individuals like Mark Cuban, and also like many top VCs from the tech space and also from the crypto space. And for us, we have been in the market for 3.5 years, and for those 3.5 years, we actually did more than 30 different non-fungible token related projects. They are mainly working together with different business partners, and our project is more focusing on utilities, not really speculations. So it's not many projects related to collectibles, but they are more related to how to use the non-fungible token to represent treatable rights from the real world, and then how those rights can be redeemed, can be used and consumed in the real environment. Like we did the FIFA tickets, UEFA tickets, and also we did the car ownership token together with Karma, electronic car companies. And our office is controlled by non-fungible tokens for the past 3 years already. And also we did experiment with the city subway billboard, many kinds of things, over 30 different experiments. Yeah. So today I will start with some basic concepts because I'm not sure whether all the people understand what blockchain can do, what blockchain cannot do, and what is a blockchain token at all. And then I will share a little bit information on these things, and also explain some misunderstanding about the non-fungible token. And after that, I can introduce a few examples, how to use non-fungible tokens, and what is the hottest topic right now. And then we will start to do the workshop. Yeah? Sounds good? Yeah. All right. So before we go to the non-fungible token part, I actually want to guide you through this concept map. So there's information on internet. Of course, internet is born to process information, and there's also information related to you, related to me, and some of the information related to you are really valuable. They are like representing how much money you owe, who you are, or what you have done. Those important things, and those things you can consider as rights. And among all those rights, some of those already be digitalized. So you can use, they have a digital representation on the information system. And among those digital rights, there are treatable rights. There are also non-treatable rights. For those treatable rights, it's like what you have. For example, I have this computer, and it's treatable because I can change the ownership. Then I can offer this computer to you. You become the new owner. Then those kinds of rights are treatable. There's also non-treatable rights. They are like what you have done. For example, I make a tweet. I have my social network on Facebook. Those things are all what I have done. Information related to me, super important. For example, my social network on Facebook are very important, but they are not treatable. Basically, that means that there's no scenario I will transfer the ownership of my friend to you. That won't happen. And also, those information like who you are, those are mainly comes from different system. Different system give you a different user identifier, different user ID, and representing who you are on their own system. And those type of rights also never have a scenario you will transfer it to other people, and not saying those real world identities like your driver license, like a passport, those informations. So, so blockchain, what blockchain can do? Blockchain can process with all those treatable rights. So, for example, if you heard someone using blockchain to kind of store your identity, then 90% you will know it's a fake project because it's not making any sense. Your identity don't need to be transferred, don't have an ownership transfer scenario. So you don't have to use a blockchain type of like a database to store those kind of information, because it will never be double spent. There's way to prevent like a fraud to protect privacy, but not using blockchain. You can use other crypto-related technologies to achieve that. Then let's look at what is token. So basically, you use blockchain to process those treatable rights, and then on blockchain, it represents as a token. So if the treatable rights itself comes from a fungible type of rights, like representing those membership, reward points, or actual digital crypto monies, those are all fungible rights. That means you have $10, I have $10. It's the same $10. And I can also divide the $10 into 1,000 cents. So you can also almost unlimited dividing. Normally on Ethereum blockchains, use point 18 zeros behind the point. So you can almost unlimitedly divide those fungible rights. And for non-fungible rights, it is like I own a computer. And to redeem these rights, actually, you will never divide it. Because if you divide it in half, then the computer cannot work. So those are the non-fungible rights. So on blockchain, you use those fungible token to representing fungible treatable rights. And you use the non-fungible token to represent those non-fungible treatable rights. And those rights can be like digital rights. And they can also be some physical things, like the ownership of that bicycle or ownership of a digital picture. And then let's look at some misunderstanding. It's very easy to misunderstand, especially when you're using non-fungible token with some digital treatable rights. For example, the so-called crypto artists, they are basically digital artists. So they make art on digital platform and then generate a digital file. And that file is actually the digital art itself. And then they issue a non-fungible token to representing some treatable rights comes from his digital art, maybe representing the ownership of that digital art. And that ownership contains many other rights. For example, whether you can use it for commercial, whether you can display it on your own device or other people's device, display it publicly, whether you can resell it, those things. So we need to separate the digital art itself and the non-fungible token on blockchain. They are two different things. So the most easy way to understand is, for example, if you're thinking this screen, this picture, the current picture is a digital art. What I can do is I can write a paper to say this paper is representing the ownership of this picture, and I give the paper to other people, then the ownership kind of transfer, because I say this paper is represent the ownership of this art. And now with blockchain, it's basically just use a non-fungible token to replace this paper, nothing special. No. So when people say they issued a non-fungible token arts, what basically they are saying is they use a non-fungible token to represent the ownership of their digital art. And whether this token is legally bound with the ownership rights or not, that is actually depends on the token issuer, those artists, whether they want to honor the statement they made. Because when I'm looking at most of the minting platform like OpenSea, SuperRare, Rarebit, Mintable, all those platforms, when artists minting non-fungible token on their platform, there's actually no strict legal agreement to make sure the artist will and have to honor the rights that non-fungible token represent. So basically, that means if they want, if those digital artists want, they can issue another non-fungible token to link with the same digital art piece. They can do double spendings, and they can dishonor the non-fungible token at all. The right represented by non-fungible token at all. So that's why I draw it here. So blockchain cannot prevent the copy of the digital art file itself. For example, if there's a digital art and I'm the owner of that art, and I own a non-fungible token which is representing the ownership. For the non-fungible token itself, only me can own it. You cannot double spend it. That is blockchain. But for the digital art itself, the file itself, everyone can have exactly same 100% copy in your own computer. And for me to stop you to have that file, it will be super difficult. So you need to understand what non-fungible token can do and what non-fungible token cannot do. Then what is like the benefit of issuing the record ownership on blockchain instead of on a paper? There's mainly two key benefits. One thing is once you tokenize tradable rights, it will be super easy to transfer, to trade. So the market become frictionless, and it's programmable. You can define so many different transaction rules to make the market even more efficiency. That is one thing. And the second thing is once you tokenize those tradable rights, you can basically use it as a kind of like an open API to integrate all other digital services. Because all other services, if they want to verify whether you own this, whether you own this rights or not, they can do it without going through any centralized parties. So that is the part very easy to have a misunderstanding. Then we can go back to look a bit more on what actually can be represented, what kind of rights can be represented by non-fungible tokens. And the non-fungible token here is more have a more broader meaning. Not only the non-fungible token issued through blockchain, can also be non-fungible tokens generated through other cryptographic technologies. So basically, there's three types of rights you can use a non-fungible token to represent. The first thing is very easy to understand what you have. For example, for most of the current blockchain non-fungible token projects, they are mostly about collectibles. So definitely you can use a non-fungible token to represent the ownership of a collectible. And the collectible itself can be a physical collectible, maybe a physical piece of art or anything made by wood. And you can use blockchain to record ownership and issue the non-fungible token to represent the ownership. And it can also be digital collectibles. That is most of those digital art and also like NBA Top Shot, those things. Yeah, actually, NBA Top Shot is another interesting case. The people who bought non-fungible token NBA Top Shot are actually buying 100% useless ownership, cannot be used or cannot be redeemed for anything at all. The only thing they can have is looking at the video itself. But do we say this kind of use case is useless? No, because this kind of 100% useless but unique ownership is a very, very good place to apply people's emotion on. So basically, if you have a strong emotion to another people, or if you have a strong emotion to another thing, you can use this useless ownership to build a very unique connection. So that means although you cannot redeem or you cannot consume that rights on anywhere on anything, but still it represents a very unique relationship between you and the people, or between you and the thing. That is actually all collectibles about. No one use collectible for the utilities. They just collect it because they have a strong emotion with the people or with the thing. So there's two examples: the physical piece and the digital piece. And for the physical piece, with the current technologies, of course, a wood piece cannot be 100% copied, at least for now. No. And the ownership of those, either the physical one or the digital one, they cannot be copied because the ownership is recorded on blockchain and represented by a non-fungible token. It cannot be double spent. But for the digital thing, it's 100% can be 100% copied. No. So that's why I say the NFT cannot stop 100% copying of those data, 0101. But there does exist some technologies, very advanced technologies like the multi-party computing. Those things can maybe solve the data ownership thing, but it won't happen like anytime soon. So these are the basic concepts for non-fungible tokens, and also what non-fungible tokens can do, and what it cannot do. And hopefully I help you to clarify some misunderstanding on the non-fungible token side. And for the NFT market right now, I'm confident it's a big bubble, because most of the market cap is supported by those super expensive collectibles, very similar to the traditional art space. So money work together with some artists to make those artists even more famous. And before they are famous, the money already reserved some of their art piece. And once they get famous, their own art piece price will increase, and they can even use those art piece as a collateral to issuing some fungible tokens, kind of like a fund to raising more money. And with more money, they can make these artists even more famous, put them into the Christie's to do auctions, those things. And basically, once those artists become even more famous, then all the art pieces they hold become even more price become even more higher, and also the fungible token they issue become worth even more. That's exactly happened with one of the very famous use case, very famous artist. I don't say his name, but you can do the research. So it's basically you can consider as they didn't spend a single dollar, but instead they together earned a lot from secondary market. So it's very similar like the traditional art space. But besides those bubble, we do believe there will be something left. For example, collectible will always exist. Maybe not those super expensive collectibles. Maybe something very easy, like I enjoy reading a book, and I think the author is great. So I will want to have an autograph from the author to sign on my book, and then my book become a collectible. And maybe I like to write those what I call it's like writing those texts, but it's kind of like art. And those people always want to collect those very expensive pens. Those are also collectibles. So this type of demand will always exist for collectibles. And besides collectibles, as I mentioned, there's collectible is just one kind of product or services being tokenized right now. There's also a whole bunch of other products and services can be tokenized, can use non-fungible token to represent the ownership. It's, for example, we did experiment with some local small business that is using non-fungible token, allow those coffee shop to issue non-fungible token, which is a redeemable token that is representing actual coffee. So they can issue those tokens, each non-fungible token representing actual coffee. And of course they can sell those tokens to their consumers in advance to collect some money. But more importantly, once they did this, they are actually be able to connect to the blockchain-based, more advanced finance system. So once they issue their service, their product as a token, like those coffee tokens, they can use those coffee tokens as a collateral in some other smart contracts to do financing, to issuing other type of securities to help them to do fundraising, rather to help them with financing, which they may not be able to access with the current banking-based finance system. So tokenizing more product, more services definitely have a lot of meaning. So that is also why we've been working on these things for over 3 years. Yeah. So any questions about the concept, the market, anything? Yeah, before we go to the workshop. The workshop will be super fast, very easy.
Did you say that non-fungible tokens are non-divisible as well? Or because I've heard, like, for example, that artwork, you didn't want to say the artist's name, it's made up of lots of different artworks, and the buyer was planning on potentially dividing that and selling each of those 5,000 pieces as their own artwork.
The depends on how you look at it. For example, you use one non-fungible token to representing that 5,000 pieces. Then this the non-fungible token on blockchain. You definitely cannot divide it. But it's super easy to put that one non-fungible token into a smart contract and then issuing another 5,000 non-fungible tokens, and another 5,000 non-fungible tokens can representing each of those pieces. That is easy. So for the first actual non-fungible token itself, you cannot divide it.
Okay.
but it's super easy to transform. You can transform it into multiple non-fungible token, or you can even transform it into fungible tokens. Depends on how you want to do it.
What are the costs associated with minting an NFT token? So say if I want to make 5,000 copies or something and sell them all 5,000 of them, limited number, what would be the cheapest and best way to do that?
It's a very good question. Actually, it can be zero cost. And I explain to you why. Because to use blockchain to facilitate ownership transfer, it's mainly for the secondary market. For example, if I can deal with you face to face, or I trust you, although you are remote, but I trust you 100%, then the deal between you and me don't have to happen on blockchain at all. So that means you can think in as when you first time, if you are a token issuer, when you first time issuing, minting those non-fungible tokens and sell it to your clients, sell it to your users, if they buy those tokens, they already have the trust anchor. They trust you 100%. Otherwise, they won't buy the token you issue. So for the primary market sale, there's no trust issue at all. So that means instead of minting the token right from the beginning, you can actually issuing kind of like a crypto certificate to all those users. And only when those people want to do ownership transfer, only when them want to transfer, or when them want to resell it, then those transactions will be facilitated by smart contract. So when they want to do that, what they need to do is that they submit their certificate to the smart contract. Then smart contract will know this is the real first-time owner, and then they will mint a non-fungible token, which is representing the ownership of the treatable rights, and then do the ownership transfer in one transaction to the other people. This is we actually did this thing in 2018 when we doing the experiment with FIFA, with a real FIFA official. We used Ethereum blockchain, issued 50 FIFA World Cup tickets in Russia, and the user, those people who participate in this experiment, when they receive the email, they receive a magic link, and that magic link is a kind of like a certificate. It is a signed message, and once they store that certificate in their crypto wallet, it looks like, and it's all the functions, the function are exactly same like a non-fungible token. And it looks like a ticket. They have the redeem button to change it into dynamic QR code. The gate can read the code, and they can do transfer, they can do resell, everything exactly the same. And only when resell or transfer happen, only by that time, it will actually mint the non-fungible tokens.
How would you do that? How would you create that? Is there a platform that allows you to sort of create those certificates you mentioned?
It's there's a super old technology called attestation. Basically, it's a computer readable message, and in that message you can including the user's public key, and then you also including what is this about, and then you sign that message, and that's it. So that means when user receive it, only he can use this certificate because he owns the private key for the public key inside this message, and also because this thing have been signed by the token issuer. So no one can. First thing, no one can change it. Second thing, no one can fake it. It's a digital signature on it. And also within this message, it contains all the information about if it's a ticket, then what is this ticket about, ticket's ID, all those things. It's inside. And this information is readable by program. Smart contract can understand what is this information about, and then they can mint the corresponding non-fungible token based on this attestation.
And is there a service that does that for you? Does that
You can wait for 3rd of May. We will launch the project called the Alchemy NFT. And for that Alchemy NFT project, one group of functions is provided by smart contract. That is including this gas minting function.
3rd of May.
Yeah, very good. Next month. Yeah. So you can do those minting without paying any gas. So any other questions? Just anything.
You don't need like white papers or anything to. You don't need white papers or anything to issue the NFTs?
No, the white paper is just a paper to explain the technology. And for issuing NFT, basically it's a very, very simple thing. You deploy a smart contract on a blockchain. You can think as you put the software there. And then you start to give this software instructions. But on blockchain is start submitting transactions to this smart contract. And then once the smart contract receives your transaction, receive your instruction, then it will perform the minting, transfer, or all the functions. Did I answer your question? Yes.
Sorry. If you've got like a data NFT, so like let's say it's a digital art JPEG, right? Is that stored on the blockchain? And
No.
okay, is it stored by some sort of third-party non-blockchain web service?
Yeah, definitely. Because storing on blockchain is the first thing is too expensive.
Yeah,
Second
that's what I was
thing,
going to say.
second thing, those data are not representing treatable rights itself. Yeah. Then it's not making sense to use a ledger to record those data. It's 100% not making sense.
Yeah.
So what is the common practice currently? Is many people say they are using IPFS or using AD. IPFS is they call it a decentralized storage solution, but actually it's more like a CDS solution, not actually storage solution. And for AD is they have a economy model to kind of make sure all the data you store on their platform or on their blockchain will be forever stay there. And both solutions have a disadvantage. For AV, the current read those data is super slow. It's hard to use. And for IPFS, most of the people, what they do is they set up their own IPFS node on AWS. And then they say they are storing their data is stored on IPFS. And technically, yes. But on practice, if their AWS server is down, then for all other nodes, all other IPFS nodes, they don't have that data at all. Because that data is not popular, and they won't pull data to their own node. Because they won't make any money by doing that. They're just wasting their own storage. So that means if that server is down, then those data is gone. But your hash will always be there. So you can still prove there used to be a thing there with this hash, but you just cannot get the actual file. So it's more like a buzzword right now in the crypto space. Most of the NFT platforms, they will say they store the metadata, they store the data on IPFS, because IPFS, if it's IPFS, it's a decentralized storage. It will never lost. Whenever you want to look for it, it will always be there. Half the hash will always be there. You can always prove, but actual data may disappear. So that means if you are a collectible investor, the best practice for you is once you bought the NFT collectible, you should download those metadata to your own storage. That should be the first thing to do, and store it locally. But it's not really matter. No. It's even if people know those data is stored on centralized service, it doesn't matter. Because as I mentioned, if you bought something, you should, it's already handed over to you. As long as by that point, the data is available, then you should download the data and take care of the data by yourself.
What's the starting point? Is the certificate created at the same time as the data or the object is created, or would you buy a certificate and then link it?
Not really matter. It can be decoupled, or it can be created at the same time. When you create for example, you create the digital file first, and then you can later you create a non-fungible token to represent ownership of that digital file, and you can kind of make this two things linked with each other. You can include the token ID in the digital file itself, or use your key to issuing those non-fungible tokens to sign this digital file. And also in the non-fungible token itself, you can put the hash of this digital file in the smart contract. Then these two things can be linked to each other. So, any other questions? Yes.
What do you think are the most exciting use cases for NFTs that people aren't really talking about right now?
Right now, it's still around those collectibles.
That people are not talking about. What do you
I'm not talking about. It's we did the FIFA tickets in 2018. Not many people talking about, and also even in the ticketing space, we did the UEFA 2020 Euro Championship, 20,000 VIP tickets, but the event got cancelled. No luck. And we are also working with the Ethereum Foundation for the upcoming DevCon ticket solutions. Yeah, that is hopefully that won't be cancelled, but very high chance it will be cancelled because previously the ticket sale should start at the beginning of this year, but it's being delayed. You know? And also, we did the car ownership token. It's also quite interesting. It's basically can transform your crypto wallet into a car portal, because once you have this ownership as a token and in your wallet on the user's hand, and then all the other services can automatically integrate it. So you can use the crypto wallet to control your car, close the door, open the door, locate the car where it is, and also authorize other people to drive. And you can also access services like the insurance service, and you don't need to sign up, don't need to sign in, don't need to copy, don't need to paste, don't need to submit those paper documents at all, because you have this ownership token. This carries all the relevant information, and those are verifiable. So the insurance website, as long as you allow those websites to read this information, and then they can provide services directly to you without setting up those accounts and submitting any documents. This is what we see as the next level of user experience improvement for the whole internet. We call it the use token to form an integration layer for the existing internet. It's not like using your wallet address as a user identifier and log in on different services. It's totally different. Using a wallet address is still just as a one identifier, and in each system they still provide service to you just purely based on this identifier. What we are talking about is token. You can use one token on one side. You can use 100 tokens on one side to provide all the relevant information. And there's no longer required like a copy paste, sign up, sign in those things.
Can you let us know how does NFT raise the value of ticketing in sports? How do NFTs raise the value of ticketing in sports? Like you said,
You mean the benefits?
Yeah.
Yes, it's mainly benefit the secondary market. As I mentioned, for primary market sale, don't need blockchain because everyone trusts FIFA. They just buy from FIFA, then it works. It's mainly to help with secondary market. And for FIFA, for token issuer, finally they have a tool to actually regulate the secondary market, because they can define all kind of complex transaction rules in the smart contract to really regulate the secondary market. For example, this ticket can only be transferred once. This ticket can be transferred twice. And this ticket can be resold with a margin. That ticket cannot be resold with a margin. And if there is a margin, then how many percent goes back to FIFA? All those things. So they are super happy with this kind of solution. And for the secondary market buyer, like those consumers who cannot buy tickets from primary market, maybe sold out, and they still want to buy tickets from secondary market, it also benefits them a lot. They don't need to trust anyone. Even if there's people on the street tell them, I have this FIFA tickets, because it is a non-fungible token, they can trust it 100%. They don't need to trust the people at all, and they can make the payment. They can do the DVP, do the deliverables payment, the timely swap. So it's a super secure, and and help those consumers. They won't be able to buy any fake tickets. Yes.
In that case of ticketing, surely the NFT is the ticket. I mean, the metadata is the ticket. Is there any asset that sits behind this NFT?
It's the tickets. The non-fungible token, as I mentioned, NFT is issued by smart contract. It is on blockchain. You can think it as it is something comes from a ledger. And that thing is representing some treatable rights. In the ticketing use case, that non-fungible token is representing the tickets itself. And if you want to say what is the actual right, that the rights that non-fungible token representing is, you can sit in this venue at this time for watching this event. That is the right represented by this non-fungible token in the ticketing case. So there's.
So, for example, to get entry to this event, you would have to present the NFT.
Yes, that is where our another technology called the token script come in place. That is a program interface on top of tokens. So basically, that interface function as able to connect with all other kind of services. For example, when you pass the gate need to figure out a way to read your non-fungible token. So there need to be an interface, like an API, those kind of things, to allow the gate to actually understand what this token is about, and also how to use this token. So that is the token script part we provide. It's a technology framework for people to do tokenization.
How do you deal with revoking the token when you need to?
Yes, definitely you can. That depends on what kind of smart contract you are applying. For example, if for speculation purpose, normally people won't put a revoke function in their smart contract, because if it can be revoked, then it worth nothing. But definitely you can do that. It's not difficult.
Talking about smart contracts, would you use like Ethereum blockchain because they started smart contracts, so it can be any blockchain?
Yes, currently all of our 3 projects are working on Ethereum-based network. It's mainly the Ethereum virtual machine. It's not the actual Ethereum main network. So that means there's also multiple other networks using the same virtual machine. And for those networks, we can also support them.
For different countries, and like how do they differ in terms of where the market's moving? I don't know, it's a big question. Let's say if we look at China or like Asia, where there's already existing like crypto that's been around for 10 to 20 years compared to like say Australia. How will NFTs differ in space?
This the key difference is NFT generated a lot of interest from outside the crypto community. And mainly comes from 2 sides. One type of people trying to those issuers, or you can call those issuers IP holder. Either they are those big IP like NBA, or they are small IP like individual artists. You can all consider they as the IP holders. And for those IP holders to cash out, they think the issuing NFT is a good way because they can make some money. Those are some interest outside the crypto space. And also there's also because of the IP, each of those IP, they have their own community. They have their own fans who are interested in ABA, who are already interested in like people's digital art for a long time. And those people are actually bring by NFT into the crypto space. Did I answer your question or not? On the location base, I don't have a very clear idea which area you're interested in what kind of non-fungible tokens. Any other questions?
Hello?
Yes?
Are you listening?
Yes.
The content, as the NFT, the assets of the owner, is this protected by law? I mean, if the issuer, the token issuer, sell its price of the original item or the artwork.
Yes, I think I understand what you want to ask. It's actually it's actually like a big issue. So there's two ways to bond actual treatable rights with a non-fungible token. One way is the traditional way. That means that we use the existing law system to make sure that non-fungible token is really representing that treatable rights. That is one way. And there's also another way. For example, if those treatable rights can only redeem on digital system or can only be consumed through digital system, because they are all digitalized, then there is a way to actually bond those digital rights with the non-fungible token itself. But for most of the collectibles, they have to be bound by the existing law structure.
Yeah, and then example, the token with the authority, the first Twitter, the first tweet of the authority on Twitter, there was maybe $1 million or maybe $3 million. It is only a screenshot, not the original data, right? It's not approved by the Twitter platform. So it's only a screenshot. So an owner sells the screenshot twice. Because it's very expensive. $3 million.
Yes, they definitely can, and actually those NFT is issued by the company called Sun.co, and you can thinking as tomorrow there's another Tucson.co company come out and doing exactly the same thing, and then they can repeat the same thing again and again. There's no law. There's no law to guarantee Jack will only allow to approve such token once. And also, even there is such law, I don't think he actually owns that tweet picture those things.
Okay.
So, any other questions?
When you mentioned before that in the case of digital art, when the JPEG is not sort of necessarily on the blockchain, but the metadata is within the smart contract, once say that JPEG is downloaded, what's the actual tracking ability of that item, or is that now not possible?
So you can always track the non-fungible token, but the actual art itself, that is like a digital file. And for example, I bought that art and I download that digital file to my own computer, and now I sell it to you. I still can have that copy, and if I'm happy, I can send the file to other people. And don't even need to like this. Currently, you can download all those digital files freely, if you want. You just don't own that non-fungible token, but you can own all the existing crypto assets in your own computer.
What about say like a digital book, right? That you want to sell 50 copies of, something like that. If you wanted to have like the NFT itself, the cover of the book, right? Like you wanted to make it so that someone who had the digital, who had bought the rights to the NFT, they have that access to the full book, but only if they currently have possession of that NFT.
Yes.
Is that possible?
Yes, that is where those NFT actually have some utilities. So that means it's redeemable or it's consumable, not like collectibles. Collectibles, the only thing you redeem is rendering a picture or rendering a song or a movie. That's it. And for the ebook example, we did the experiment before. That is exactly to tokenize those ebook. And the token itself is representing the rights for you to read the full ebook. So basically that means if you have that token in your wallet, then you are able to download that ebook to your Amazon device, and then you can enjoy reading it. So you can redeem it.
Okay. So redeemables or consumables would be what I would research to find out more about that.
Yes, you can. If you are interested, you can go to our GitHub. There's a paper, the token script design paper, and that paper actually we explain all these things and also examples, use case, and how to achieve this type of use case.
On the